Well, here we have my latest steam engine bought from eBay. So why is the title of this video a sad tale of a rather lovely model steam engine? Well, let me give you a bit of background. There's a chap on eBay that builds these and sells them, and he's had several model steam engines for sale over probably the last year or so, all different types, all different configurations, and I was really impressed by the looking at the photos, by the quality of the build. It was excellent, and as you can see from this one, it's really nicely made. The engineering, machining on it is excellent. So up until recently I've not been able to afford one of his engines. This one came up and it wasn't as expensive as previous models that he put up for sale, so I thought, right, I think this is within my budget, I'll have a go, and I did, and I bought this. So here it is. As you can see, it's a twin cylinder oscillating vertical engine and single flywheel. Very nice indeed. So why the sad tale? Well, unfortunately the chap who makes these is not as good at packing his engines up for shipping or posting as he is at building them. And this thing came in a very small box. As you can see, it's quite a large engine. There's my hand, and it came in a very small box with very little packing, and consequently it had suffered a fairly heavy whack at some point in its journey. What that meant was that when it arrived I could barely turn it over, and it was incredibly stiff, not completely locked up, but very stiff. So I did some investigation and basically undid all the bolts that hold the two main mounting plates, and then I could turn it over. And what I discovered at that point was that the crankshaft is bent, and you'll see that when we run it. So it obviously had suffered a severe clout at some point. So what I did was, by loosening off everything and gently prising things back into the position where they were supposed to be, I did manage to get it freed up so that it now runs. I've run it on air, runs down to about 10 psi. So we're gonna have a go at running it on steam, but you'll see the wobble on the flywheel, and it's not the flywheel, it is in fact I've had it flywheel off, and it's the crankshaft that's bent. So, which is a shame, because I think it was probably perfect before it was shipped. But it's still a lovely engine. It's just that it could have been pretty much perfect. So, right, let's get it hooked up and see if we can get it running on steam. Well, this is my second attempt at steaming this little twin cylinder oscillator that I got off of eBay. The first attempt was not a success. It did run, but as soon as it got hot, it all tightened up again, and I had to abort it. So in the intervening period, off camera, I have replaced the bent crankshaft, which is that one that sits in there. I've also taken all this off and very gently tapped this bushing this way. What was happening was that this crank was binding up on the conrod big end here. This was tight, locking up this face here. So I've tapped that bush back through. I reckon it got whacked at this end, which is why the crankshaft got bent, and which is why that bushing was forced that way. So now the whole thing is much freer to turn. I've run it on air and it will run down to a few psi. So I'm hoping my little boiler plant here will be enough to get it to run. So I've got water in the boiler, heat's on, to keep our fingers crossed. Well, I think we're about there. Yeah, no problem at all. I've got the steam valve pretty much, well, only cracked open a few turns, and that's running a treat now. As you can clearly see. Sounds nice too. And hopefully the heat, it won't bind up this time with the heat, because obviously there's clearance now. So let's open it. speed it up a little bit. Yeah, it's not an awful lot wrong with that, is there? Lovely. I'll change the camera angle. What a lovely engine. So hopefully a nice ending to what was, at the beginning anyway, a rather sad tale. Oh, too slow. That is lovely. Now obviously you can clearly see now that the flywheel is running true, which was just down to that bent crankshaft. I reckon it must have had a terrific whack on the end here, which was obviously an angle, forced the bushing back into this mount here, and at the same time bent that shaft. So, oh well, easily remedied, thank God. So this is a lovely, lovely engine. There's another one that's going to have to go on my list of steam engine that needs to be put onto a baseboard with its own boiler. Superb. All credit to the builder. And say I'm completely convinced that the damage done to this engine was through shipping. Not. I'm sure it was perfect when it left the guy who built it. So there we go, a rather lovely twin-cylinder oscillating engine, now running properly the way it was designed to run. And yeah, I'm very well pleased because it was such a lovely engine, and when it arrived, it was in a right state, as you saw. So now it's fine, it's running lovely. Well, I'll have to look out for some more engines by this guy because they are nice. And the other ones I've seen on eBay were lovely, but they went for a rather lot of money. They're way outside of my budget, unfortunately. So, okay, let's just speed it up one last time. And we'll turn the gas off. Just running off residual steam on the boiler from the boiler. which is a very small boiler. So there we go. That will be it. As always, hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.